Trade deadline comes and goes. Texans don't make a move. Well, they kind of did. Not really. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. The trade deadline has come and gone. A lot of people upset that the Texans did not make a move. They made a move, kind of. They traded Khil Davis for a 7th-round pick in 2026, but the Texans did not make a move. Some people wanted them to get an offensive lineman. Some people wanted them to get a wide receiver. Some people wanted them to get both. But the Texans, the trade deadline comes and goes, and the Texans do not make a move. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. My thing about this move is I would like to know the specifics of which move someone wanted to make, because I think the dialogue about the Texans and trading has turned into, well, they could use a receiver or they could use an extra offensive lineman. I saw John McClain said it, and he didn't give any specific names. And that's one of my pet peeves, especially like around draft time, where it's like, well, we could use a shutdown corner. Well, what if there's not a shutdown corner? You also still got to maintain some level of chess if you're Nick Caserio. Furthermore, like I'm hearing about what all these teams did at the trade deadline. In Kansas City, they traded for DeAndre Hopkins. The Jets, they traded for Devontae Adams. The Ravens, they traded for Zay Flowers. The Bills, they traded for Amari Cooper. These teams didn't do anything in the offseason. The Texans traded for Stephon Diggs. They spent as much money as they've spent in free agency. So what do you want them to do? What did you specifically want them to do? I'm as critical of this team as anyone. I think the offensive line is a problem. I think wide receiver depth is a problem. There's a reason that they traded for a wide receiver in the first place this offseason. But I don't have like a specific deadline move to where I point to that and say they should have made that move. I've heard Cody Stutes, and you can hear me and Cody Stutes on SNL Texans Daily Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m. And also at 4 p.m. on Fridays. And by the way, we got a special announcement. If you're going to be in Houston, we got a watch party planned, or just a gathering planned on Friday in Edo at Big City Wings. So we want you to come out there. The official announcement's going to drop. This is the sneak peek. 4:00 Edo. We will be at Big City Wings. We will be at Big City Wings, broadcasting live, reacting to the Texans' final injury report right after we leave the practice field. So join us at Big City Wings out there in Edo if you want to join. But I keep hearing all this stuff about, they should have traded for a receiver. They should have traded for an offensive lineman. It just doesn't work like that. They've got to hope that Nico Collins comes back and makes them better. And the offensive line, I don't know what the hope is there, quite honestly, but I don't have like a specific move that they should have made. I thought they were very aggressive this offseason. I think they're going to have to figure some stuff out. They're going to have to hope that Nico Collins is to the pass game as Joe Mixon is to the run game. And by that, I mean Joe Mixon makes these offensive linemen look like good run blockers because he's that good. Maybe it's in the quick game. Maybe it's the fact that CJ Stroud can trust him to get open. You got to hope that Nico Collins overcomes the flaws of this offensive line when it comes to pass protection like Mixon does running the ball. That's the hope. But do I think Nick Caserio should have made a move? Not really. I don't see anything. Would I have been opposed? No. Do I think it's the end of the world that he didn't know? Because they were aggressive as hell this offseason. Swarm in the super chat. We got Doyle. Appreciate you for doing that.
Swarm.
Anyone who talk about the election goes in timeout. That is a fact. This is not an election show at all. Bishop says Nick needs to be put in timeout for not making any trades. I guess. I mean, he made trades in the offseason. He did make one trade for Khil Davis. He traded Khil Davis for the what was it, a seventh round pick in 2026. I don't understand this. My confusion is this, and I saw there was some pushback that, maybe he was going to be cut. My question is why? Maybe I'm not watching as closely, but is Kurt Hinish better than Khil Davis? Is it really that urgent to bring Jerry Hughes back and get rid of Khil Davis? I liked what Khil Davis did. Maybe he's just one of those guys that sticks out whenever he makes a play, but I liked what Khil Davis provided the Texans. I liked it a lot, quite honestly. And just trading him for nothing, I didn't really get it. I thought he was a good depth piece. I think he's better than Kurt Hinish. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kurt Hinish fits more into what they do. And I know Mario Edwards Jr. is coming back, but I like Davis in the rotation. I don't know what Jerry Hughes is going to do when he comes back. I'm a little bit confused by that. What does Jerry Hughes do for you when he comes back? It's a question I have. Maybe Will Anderson's a little bit more nicked up and they think Jerry Hughes can go in there and do something for him. I don't know. It's been a long time. We haven't seen Jerry Hughes in a long time. Khil Davis, I kind of liked. Maybe I liked him too much. I don't think it's like an end all be all, but I didn't like just getting rid of Khil Davis. Don't know. Maybe it's because he's always a badass in the preseason. It just seems like kind of an unnecessary trade for me. Avenue Central going to Miko. He says, let's just focus on the good reps from today. Sure. There was only one though. And it was trading Khil Davis. That was the only one that we got. Now, here is another thing that I think, and I think this is probably the best theory when it comes to any disappointment over the trade deadline. And reminder, Big City Wings, Friday at 4:00, live show with myself and Cody Stutes. Hopefully we're rolling deep there. They got all the drink specials. They got happy. It's a hell of a place out there in Edo. So we look forward to seeing y'all out there. SNL, we'll have more details tomorrow morning, 9:00, when we prepare for the Texans returning to the practice field. Now, you've all heard this song Green Acres. I think that there is kind of a little bit of a theory when it comes to the Texans not making a trade that I think will allow you or justify criticism of the front office. And that is not Green Acres, ACRES, but Brown Acres, AKERS. Because right now the Texans, they could use a wide receiver. And if you told me that the Texans traded for Noah Brown, I don't think too many people would be disappointed. Because last year you saw Noah Brown step up. He actually seemed to, and this is the thing that I think Noah Brown had that a lot of these receivers don't. And I haven't really heard this talked about a lot, because when people talk about Noah Brown, it's almost like, well, yeah, he's not great, he's not awesome, but he couldn't stay healthy, and that's all true. But the one thing that Noah Brown seemed to have was chemistry with CJ Stroud, to when plays kind of broke down, or when CJ Stroud needed to throw the ball to Noah Brown was open and reliable. And you don't really see that with John Mechie and Hutchinson. But whenever plays broke down, whenever there was like a scramble drill, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like some sort of deep ass Ohio State connection or something like that. But whenever it happened, Noah Brown and CJ Stroud appeared to be on the same page. And the Texans decided that they were going to let Noah Brown go, and they were going to keep Robert Woods. They were going to keep Steven Sims, and they were just going to hope that Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins stayed healthy. And Noah Brown ended up in Washington. Washington's one of the surprise teams in the NFL. They made the biggest trade of the day for Lattimore, and Noah Brown's a part of that. He's part of the. They talk about his leadership. They talk about his toughness. Same stuff we talked about last year. And here the Texans are now. Stephon Diggs, who never really got hurt before this year. but Tank Dell did, and Nico Collins had, and both of them have missed time this year. There's been games where you could have used a Noah Brown, and now you could really use Noah Brown, because what you would essentially have is you would have the exact same wide receiver core as last year with a healthy Tank Dell for the back end of the season, hopefully. But now you have that same wide receiver core that you felt desperate enough about to where you made the Stephon Diggs trade. You tried to make the Keenan Allen trade, and Noah Brown's gone. So if you told me that the Texans traded for Noah Brown, I think that would be a good move. They didn't have to. They cut his ass. You also have Cam Akers in Minnesota, and Cam Akers showing some flashes. And we don't know when Dameon Pierce is going to be back. We don't know if the Taylor thing is sustainable. You probably don't want to ask Joe Mixon to do too much. You want him to be, fresh on the back end, although I know he's more than willing and able. But like all this talk about, the Texans didn't make a move and the Texans could have made a move. Those are two pieces right there that would have been decent trade acquisitions, and you just got rid of them. So I think that's something that needs to be questioned. And some people will say, well, hindsight's 2020. And I think that's one of the laziest damn things that people say. I heard D'Amico say that the other day about the Joe Mixon fade play to CJ Stroud. As if, if it works, it's awesome. But yeah, if it works, it's awesome. But nobody before that play is going to sit there and say, run that play. And this Noah Brown decision, that was one of the most controversial moves of camp. That was the most surprising cut that was discussed. And I won't say unanimously, because I think there's a certain level of justification. There's a certain level of trust in the front office, rightfully so. But that was one of the cuts that was made where people were like, what the hell are we doing getting rid of Noah Brown? It's a big part of what we did last year. And you got rid of him. So that wasn't hindsight. That was discussed from the beginning. And all we heard last year, rightfully so, was how important Noah Brown was to this team, how he had the chemistry, how he was tough, all that. He's gone. And some people say, well, he was gone because he was banged up in camp. Okay. Nico Collins had problems missing games the first 3 years of his career. Tank Dell missed half a season. He'd only played one game. Robert Woods has been banged up in and out of the lineup because Father Time's kind of caught up to him. We don't know what John Mechie and Hutchinson can do. And I'm fine with either one of those guys staying. But it almost feels like this organization and this front office, they almost have their favorites. And I don't know if it's because they were early draft picks or what, but this front office has their favorites. And one of their favorites was Kenyon Green, who didn't even have to compete for a starting job this year. He was getting all the first team reps no matter what. There was no fake ass competition. None. We didn't see Jared Patterson getting equal reps. We didn't see anything. Kenyon Green was LG1 from the start of the season, despite the fact he'd been banged up and despite the fact we hadn't seen a lot. Now, naturally, you kind of look to that and you say, okay, well, maybe they know what they're doing. Maybe he's going to be fine. He came in looking physical. He gave it all he could. He was banged up all season long. I'm not trying to knock what Kenyon Green did, but he didn't even compete. Then you have the wide receiver position where John Mechie makes the team over Noah Brown. And we didn't know if John Mechie was going to make the team. He had that one good game in the preseason. Then all of a sudden, John Mechie's here. And every time that they've needed John Mechie to produce, he's not produced. Noah Brown, when he was called upon last year, more times than not, he came through. So that's another guy that appears to be one of their favorites. It's a second-round pick. That's a first-round pick. Then you have Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce was, and I think he's kick returner 1 right now. But do I think you neglect the running back 2 spot, and then when you bring Cam Akers in, and he shows that perhaps he's your second best option, you trade him for a bag of peanuts? I know Dameon Pierce had the one long run. Was that enough for you to feel comfortable that if something happens to Joe Mixon, that Dameon Pierce is just going to hold it down? They seem to have their favorites on offense. And maybe it's sentimental because these guys were like drafted by Nick Caserio when things weren't good. But there seems to be, or maybe it's neglect. Maybe D'Amico's too busy with the defense. But they seem to have their favorites who don't play by the same rules as the other guys. CJ Stroud had to have a fake-ass quarterback competition with Davis Mills. We knew CJ Stroud was going to start. He had to have a fake-ass quarterback competition. Kenyon Green doesn't have to compete with Jared Patterson. Like, it's just a wrap. And if it would have worked out, sure, maybe this goes back to the hindsight thing. But not even like a fake-ass competition. You just felt good. You just plug in Kenyon Green and all is good. Dameon Pierce last year was unplayable, and Devin Singletary was a clear upgrade. Devin Singletary's not doing anything in New York this year. He looked so good last year that he ended up getting a contract because he was so much better than Dameon Pierce. Motor. He's not doing a damn thing. And you just bring back Dameon Pierce as RB2. Then you see him and Akers kind of going back and forth. You get rid of him. Noah Brown, you don't keep him around because you like John Mechie. That's the Brown Akers theory when it comes to the trade deadline. And I think it's fair criticism, and I don't think it's hindsight. I think it's valid to ask. Cesar on the super chat. I'm honestly worried for Stroud's health. How can not do anything to change the O-line? A trade was very necessary, in my opinion. Stroud seeing ghosts out there. His spirit definitely appears to be crushed. And I go back to early on in the Green Bay game when you kind of see him throw his helmet down and just the way in which he's looked at the podium, you can tell his spirit's kind of crushed. He's not going to throw his teammates under the bus. He's got the leadership. But CJ Stroud, he's not playing with the same joy and spirit right now. And maybe that increases with Nico Collins. This betting line is interesting right now because it's at 3. But I think this front office needs to be questioned when it comes to, and do what Cody Stutes said and smash that like button and come out and see us this Friday, 4:00. More details going down tomorrow on SNL. But I think that this front office being questioned for the way in which they handled Noah Brown, the way in which they handled Akers, and the favorites that they appear to play on offense, I think it's fair to question. John Mechie, Dameon Pierce, Kenyon Green. Those are like if we were in a classroom and we were sitting in the classroom, I think those 3 guys would be the teacher's pets. I think they would be the guys that D'Amico and Nick Caserio like the most, the students that they like the most. And there's a lot to like. John Mechie's a very spiritual guy. He's been through a hell of a lot, but he's not a better football player than Noah Brown. Dameon Pierce is awesome. Dameon Pierce is your kick returner 1 when he can stay healthy. But is he a better RB2 than Cam Akers? No, but they love him. It doesn't matter what they see. Just like Kenyon Green, it doesn't matter what they see. They appear to play favorites when it comes to these offensive guys. That's just what it looks like to me. Doyle says every position on this team should be a competition. I disagree with that. I think you're set at receiver. I think you're set at quarterback. I think you're pretty good at tight end. I think left tackle, you're fine. RB1, you're good. CB1 and 2, you're good. Safety, no competition there. Nickelback, no competition there. Your 2 starting DNs, no competition there. D lineman, no competition there. Linebacker. But Kenyon Green gets handed a spot. I mean, I can see some competition. I think there's some spots on the line, but Kenyon Green gets handed the guard. Dameon Pierce is RB2. And that's not even just like coming into the season. That's after getting a snippet and having to basically flip a coin as to who's better. That's what it is. I've seen Dalton Schultz. I see him all the time. I don't know how to judge these tight ends. And that's been the hardest thing with the grades is they're not asked to do a lot. And I don't think they're like in the best position to succeed for what their skills are. But I know a lot of people are upset with Dalton Schultz. It hasn't been awesome. But I don't know what they what they're thinking when they know that. I really don't. Don't give up on this team. I wouldn't give up on this team. I think this is a good team. I think there's a very, very good football team there. And I think the things that you need to happen for success, I don't think they're too unrealistic. But as far as should they have made a move, I don't look at this and say, man, they should have made a trade. I do look at it and say, why the hell did they cut those guys? It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Reminder, big announcement tomorrow on SNL. We're going to be having a live show Friday at 4 p.m. Tune in at 9 for the details. This one's going to be a little bit short. Got some stuff to get to, and I know y'all do as well. But I appreciate y'all for coming through. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the Texans should have made a move? Am I being a little bit dramatic with the Noah Brown, Cam Akers, Brown Akers thing? Just let me know. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Practice tomorrow. We'll hear from D'Amico Ryans. We'll hear from some guys in the locker room, and we'll get to the bottom of this. And who knows? Maybe we'll see Nico Collins. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
We got taste for days, opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We #1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.